We're going to get started in a second, just doing a quick sound test, see if my voice is loud enough versus the music volume. Hopefully you brought your tennis ball. Okay, we're going to get started in a second. Just don't mind me. I'm just going to shift the camera for a second. Let's see. Okay. All right, I think that's good. Okay, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us this week, especially after last week. My apologies. My camera didn't work on my laptop because of a Windows update. Anyway, we got it all sorted out. Hopefully you have a ball. This is the first exercise that we're doing today, actually, is working with the ball. Just rolling it underneath your foot. So now the harder the ball is, the deeper you can go. My ball here is a special athletic pressure point ball. There's some that you can find that have those funny bumps on them and stuff. Those work well. This works really well. It's basically just a really solid tennis ball. I find the tennis ball isn't necessarily tough enough for me, but I like to go really deep. I don't bruise easily. So I needed something firmer than a tennis ball. If you bruise easily, use a tennis ball or even a practice tennis ball, which are even softer, because you don't want to bruise yourself doing these exercises. They're not too intense or anything, but some people really bruise ridiculously easy. And if that's you, just know you want to use a really soft ball. If you like to go deep, if you like deep tissue massages, that sort of thing, I recommend getting something much harder and just going deeper with it. So we're going to skip the Bachengang warm-up today, and we're going to go into a warm-up exercise that can help with plantar fasciitis and fasciitis in the legs. And basically what that is the connective tissue underneath the skin can sometimes get irritated, inflamed, or moved around in the wrong places, twisted up, you could say. Things that commonly cause this: poor posture. If you're in like a jarring accident, like a car accident, that can put your connective tissue out of alignment. When it comes to the feet, plantar fasciitis, if you don't stretch out your feet enough, your connective tissue can get caught up in the feet. Because we use our feet so much walking, it can become inflamed and stuck. And so sometimes you can, if you have those issues, you'll feel it in a number of yoga poses. And sometimes you'll have to modify some yoga poses if you have that condition. One way to start, this is already an exercise to help prevent plantar fasciitis. Just rolling the ball underneath your foot, getting all the different pressure points. There's all different spots related to your whole body and your foot. So this is actually a really great warm-up, especially since we're not doing the Bachengang warm-up. This is actually a full body warm-up because the feet, through the connective tissue, connect to the whole body, and through the nerves connect to the whole body. So just warming up with a ball like this affects the whole body. Specifically, if you have plantar fasciitis, very good exercise. So make sure you've done both feet, getting into the arch, getting into the base, the front of the heel, base of the balls of the toes. I like to do like 30 seconds each foot. That way, you just switch back and forth. If I want to go longer, then at least I know I've gotten both feet at least 30 seconds. Okay. Oh, actually, let's do just one more quick round, 30 seconds each foot. Say one other thing. Today, we're going to need an additional prop for the class. And some people don't like to use props in yoga. And one thing that I find in common with people who really don't want to use yoga props, it's usually people who've never actually used yoga props. It's people who generally think that they're used in a certain way that they don't like or whatever. But if you actually try and experiment with some of these yoga props, you'll find that it can make your practice so much nicer. Just rather than forcing your body into a pose, you can bring your alignment to you using yoga props. So anyway, the reason why I'm saying this is we're going to be using a chair today. And whenever I say I actually don't say we're doing chair yoga, because people hear that and they usually think it's going to be like the type of yoga that I would teach someone in a wheelchair. And it's definitely not that. It's going to be a vigorous class, but we need to use a chair for it. I assume everybody has a chair. I'm not too picky about the type of chair you use. If you put it on your yoga mat, it usually doesn't move. If you put it against the wall, even better. Just be careful if it's at all sliding. I'm going to use a chair that I normally wouldn't. It's not super ideal, but if I can pull off with this chair, whatever you got at home, I'm sure you can make do with. Okay, so let's, if you want, you can grab a chair now and get it ready, or you can wait. For now, we're coming to a seated position to work on some of these plantar fasciitis and leg fasciitis points. Now, it's not just if you have that condition. You might be thinking, I don't have that, so why am I wasting my time? Well, this will also prevent you from getting that condition, and also it will stretch your hamstrings in a way that might not have been accessible before. So we're going to get right into the hamstring attachment. So let's take the ball at the front of your right sits bone, just in front of the right sits bone, where your hamstrings connect to that sits bone. We want to put the ball right in front of that. So basically, that bone you sit on the right side, put the ball just in front of that, and then sit down on it and straighten your right leg. The left leg doesn't really matter so much what you do with that one. You can have it straight or bent. But we want to put pressure down onto the ball so that it's pushing onto the head or the attachment of the hamstring. And usually when I teach this, I can see when people have found it, because like I can see the expression on their face of like, ooh, because it's usually kind of sensitive when you get that spot. That hamstring attachment gets tight in this spot. So sometimes if you think of the hamstring kind of like a piece of gum, if you're pulling at the hamstring, the gum will stretch mostly in the center. But we want the hamstring to stretch all along. So this stretches the head of the hamstring where it is tight and often doesn't even get stretched. So you might find that after stretching like this with the ball, you might be more flexible than usual. Okay, now keeping the ball in that spot, and it doesn't have to be in just but one spot. You kind of have to move around. There might be a few little sweet spots in that area. But once you found that sweet spot, now bend your knee a little bit. Keep the pressure on the ball. Flex your toes towards you, and then take your knee out to the side, and then inside. Slow and easy. Okay, and then extending that leg, point the toes, flex the toes on the right foot. All right, good stuff. That should do it for that side. Other side, put the ball in front of the hamstring, putting pressure down on the hamstring attachment. First, just playing around, finding the sweet spots, applying some pressure. It's kind of a weird hamstring warm-up, but it actually does warm up your hamstrings because it's releasing the head of the hamstring that normally stays tight. And then from here, bend the knee a little bit, keep pressure on the ball, and then slowly opening in and out. And slowly release. Now we're going to take the ball in at the second position. We just have two positions that we're working on today. This one is a little trickier to find. It's between the right sits bone and your tailbone. If you were to draw a line between your right sits bone, that bone we were identifying before, and the tailbone, you're right in between those 2 points. And you sit down on it. And again, it usually feels like not the most comfortable thing in the world, for sure. If you found the right spot and a good point, it might feel very uncomfortable. The hurt so good kind of situation. Now from here, let's start with flexing the toes forward and back. Point the toes, point the foot, and back, and so on. This will be excruciating for people with plantar fasciitis. Usually, it's more intense. If you're all good in that department, this will just be, a kind of a sensitive stretch. with pressure points. Now bending the knee a little bit, opening out and in again. All right, let's try that on the other side now. So again, between the left sits bone and the tailbone, that space in between there, pretty sensitive, a lot of nerves there. If you've ever bumped your tailbone, you know that can be excruciating. It's something you really should avoid. I recommend if you go skiing or snowboarding to wear a butt protector, because that's a common injury, and it can really affect your sacrum if you bag it. All right, now toes flexing forward and back. And bend the knee and in and out. Okay, and releasing that. And find, please, a comfortable cross-legged position. Stay up nice and tall. Let's just take a few mindful breaths before we begin our yoga practice. Now, typically when I start yoga class, I don't chant Om. When I do my own practice, I like to chant Om, but people can be a bit self-conscious about chanting Om in a group. But since you're at home, if you like today, you can join me in a nice long chant of Om. Okay, namaste. Please start by interlacing the fingers and turning the palms forward. Keeping the shoulder blades down and back, take your arms up. Now, if you find that sitting in this position is challenging, I recommend sitting up on a block. That can make a big difference. Releasing the arms. Just by adding that little bit of height. It's optional, but it does make it more comfortable. Now let's take the left hand across the right leg, right hand behind, sit up tall, and gently twist to the right. Okay, going back to the center. Let's take the right hand across the left hand behind, sitting up tall, and gently twisting left. Coming back to the center. Please bring your right hand forward. Turn the hand palm up. Draw the arm up. Catch hold of the elbow or catch hold of the hand. Stretch the elbow up and back. And release. Now, if this cross-legged position isn't possible for you. Like I said, adding more height can make it accessible, but an alternate position is also good. You could sit with the feet together, knees wide, or feet wide, legs wide. Now left arm up, elbow up and back. Okay, releasing that side. Now place your right fingertips down to the right, left hand comes up, and we reach over into a side extension, side stretch. Try to get length in both sides of the body though, not just on the left. Keep the hips flat, shoulder back. Inhale, coming back up to the center. Right arm up and over. And come back to the center. Okay, now bringing the hands forward. Turn the thumbs down, palms out. Take the right hand over the left, interlace the fingers, and then circle down in towards you and then forward to whatever degree you can. This helps to prevent carpal tunnel, wrists. If you're predisposed to that condition, this might be excruciating. And you might not be able to get very far. You might only get to here. Okay, other side. Now you want your left hand on top, palms together, interlace. If you really want to boggle your mind, do reverse interlacing and then forward. And slowly release. Now from here, we're going to take the feet wide. Nice and wide. Nice and tall. This is made easier by sitting on a block. Try to get the legs straight. To do this well and safely, we want to be able to press our thigh bones into the hamstrings towards the floor, or even into the floor, even better. Reaching up. Reach forward an inch, lengthen 2 inches taller. Forward an inch, 2 inches taller. Forward an inch, 2 inches taller. Your hamstrings might feel a little different from having done that tennis ball work. And come back up. And the knees. Now we're coming around to kneeling. Cat-cow tilts. Inhale to cow. Exhale to cat. Your own breath. Let's do a few of these. Coming to neutral. Coming into tiger pose. We're going to reach back with the right leg. Reach forward with the left arm. Back of the neck stays long. Keep reaching out. Get longer and longer. And slowly releasing down for the other side. Left leg back. Right arm forward. And slowly releasing from there. Hands a bit wide. Take some hip circles. If you find your knees are sensitive, you should have a blanket under those knees. Other way. And back to the center. Take the hands forward. We're going to come back into downward dog, tucking the toes under, hips up and back. Start with knees bent if that helps to lengthen the spine. Now, if you're working with plantar fasciitis, if you have fasciitis in your feet, you want to be able to get your feet flat because this is going to be pulling on the connective tissue and causing it more irritation. So you would want to work downward dog at the wall in that case. So you'd be in this position. Same position, just 90 degrees shifted to a wall. And this will allow your feet to be flat, and you can actually start to hopefully move your connective tissue in the right direction. You can work with your knees bent, if you like. Maybe walking the dog here. And then coming down, find a wide-legged child's pose, knees wide, sit back on the heels. You're walking the hands in, leg forward, knees in, hips forward, kneeling push-up position. Make sure your index finger knuckles are down on the floor. That's the one that tends to lift up first and keeps you from getting a good rotation. And then lowering down. Reach your left arm out to the side and peel up the right side of the body. Your left elbow could be bent or your arm could be straight. I personally prefer the arm straight one, but that just means I need to push myself to practice the other one. Sometimes the one that you don't like as much is the one that you should do more. So I at least like to make sure it's part of my practice so I don't eliminate all the stuff that I don't like. It's sometimes more important. All right, now let's come back to flat. Left hand in, right hand out. Maybe elbow bent and peeling up the left side of the body. And then back to flat. Draw your hands in beside the chest, elbows in, point the toes, neck long, curl up into a light cobra. Try not to use your hand strength. Palms can press into the floor, but it's to help get the shoulders back and down. And lower about halfway down, press the palms, lift up to all fours. And palms flat, tuck the toes under, lift back to downward dog. Next exhalation, bend the knees, look forward, step, walk, or jump to the top of the mat. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, bend the knees and ragdoll forward. Lying over the thighs, release the neck, head, neck, and shoulders. And slowly rolling up, coming up to standing. Okay, shake it out a little bit. I mentioned earlier that we've been working with a chair. We already got the ball out of the way. There's lots more cool stuff you can do with the ball, but we just wanted to focus on the fascia, plantar fasciitis today. We will need a chair. So find, please, a chair. Ideally, it's better if it's against the wall, but it's not really a big deal as long as you're not pushing it and it's tipping a lot. This one, it's not even really against the wall. I just have to make sure not to tip it. Okay. Again, you might not want to use a chair, but please just indulge me this one time. Try the chair. I think you'll quite like it. It's one of my favorite yoga props. It's a big part of my personal practice. And I think that if you give it a chance, you might also really grow to love it. One last thing. One thing that I found strange when I was in India, I went to a place that was what I could find as the most traditional and genuine yoga style that I could find in all of Calcutta. And what I found when I went in there was a whole lot of weird yoga going on. Like there's some people with barbells, some people on ramps, some people doing yoga, and some people just relaxing. And this was all considered yoga. So I think in the West, we sometimes have an idea of what yoga is supposed to look like and what things you can incorporate before it's not yoga anymore. But yoga is really about developing and generating health and happiness for yourself, and some props can really be helpful for that. So grabbing a chair, if you would, please take your hands to the front of the chair and come back into that down dog wall push I was demonstrating earlier. And this can be done with the legs straight or the knees bent, if that helps you to get longer in the spine. Now, those of you who have a strong downward dog, you might not feel much in this position, but doesn't mean you're not getting anything out of it. This is a great stretch for the spine, the hamstrings, and to go deeper, just tilt your hips more, bring your belly towards the floor a little bit, and most people can find a pretty deep stretch. Now from here, inhale, come forward into a plank position. Shoulders over the hands. Make sure your chair isn't going to tip on you. Beauty of this is it's a full plank, but it's about as easy as kneeling plank. So you get to work on your full plank position. You might try bringing your toes in a little bit so that you can actually drop your heels back. Good stuff. Now hips back, coming into that down dog position. Now please bring your feet closer together. We're going to swing the right leg back. Tricky part is to keep the hips flat. If you look back towards your right foot, the toes should point down. Now we want to swing that right leg forward so that the foot is underneath the chair a bit, but the knees above the heel. And basically you don't want this. Your heel definitely can't be off the floor. You want your foot at least a bit under the chair. Rarely is it too far under. Most people go too far this way. So anyway, it should be straight. If you want to adjust and go deeper, you take your back foot out. Now, ideally, you want to maintain contact with the chair seat. That helps you to keep your alignment in your front leg. Just that gentle contact, you know you got that perfect alignment. Hips stay flat. You could stay here, or you could reach up, coming into Crescent Warrior. Now, if this is a really hard position for you, just keep your hands on the chair. Okay, good. Now bring the hands down to the chair. Straighten your front leg, turn your back heel down, and then take the left arm up. This is triangle pose. And the beauty thing with the chair this high, most people find they won't get a full stretch, but you can modify it just by bending your elbow to whatever perfect level of height you want. All right, bring that left hand down and take the right leg back into that downward dog once again. Now bring the feet a little closer. Left leg back and up. And swing that leg forward, foot's under the chair a bit. Back heel stays up. You might scooch it back a little bit more to go a little deeper. Hips stay square to the front, hips stay level. Make sure your right hip isn't dropping. Maybe reaching up. Then floating the hands down, straighten your front leg and turn your back heel down. You might widen your stance for this. This triangle pose. Square your shoulders to the front, legs straight, and then tilting to the left. Find your perfect triangle height. And slowly releasing that hand down and going back to chair down dog. Bring the feet a little closer together. Bring your right leg up and over. This time bend the knee, lift the knee. Scorpion tail position. Then swing that leg all the way forward, part way under the chair. Turn the back heel down and rise up to warrior one. So it's like the crescent lunge with the back heel down. It's a much more subtle mechanics of the back leg, so it's a little trickier. And then float the hands down. Straighten your front leg. You might scoot your back foot in a bit and your toes in a bit. This is a revolve triangle. Your left hand's down on the chair seat. Right hand on your right hip. Draw the right shoulder up. Keep expansive legs, long spine, and looking to the right. You might reach up if it's comfortable, or you can keep your hand on your hip. Make sure your back heel stays down. To go a little deeper, you can bend that left elbow. And pressing up, square the shoulders, hands down, leg back, chair down dog. Feet a little closer together. And take the left leg up and over. Then swing that forward through. Shin touching the chair. Turn your back heel down. Hips square to the front. Rise up, warrior one. Now straighten that front leg. Bring your hands to your hips. Square to the chair. You might bring your back foot in a touch. Right hand on the chair seat. Left hip back. Left shoulder up. Looking left. Revolve triangle. Keep your back heel down. To go deeper, you bend that right elbow. And unwinding, anchor from your back leg and come up. So hands down, leg back, chair down dog. Now inhale, come forward to plank. But this time, you may bring your feet a little forward, keep your heels pressing back, lower the hips, and come into plank up dog. So we still want to lengthen through the back inner heels, lift through the inner thighs, tuck the tailbone, engage the core in up dog position, or just hold plank. And then coming back, downward dog. And please walk the feet forward. Come up to standing. Place your right foot onto the seat of the chair. Flex your toes up towards your knee, keeping that ankle as it is. Open wide onto the side of the foot. Tilt your hips forward as much as you comfortably can and bring your hands to the chair seat. You might have to continue bending your elbows. To go further, hop your left leg back. Now, you might want to try this, but it's pretty tricky to get out of if you don't quite have the flexibility. So just don't feel like you have to do this. Be careful, but you might be able to lower your back knee in this position. This is tricky to get back up in some cases. I've had to run around and help people out of this position before, but I won't be able to do that for you today. So be careful. And then coming up and forward to come out. Careful not to bonk your head. Okay, other foot up onto the side of the foot. Toes are flexed towards the knee. Hinge forward. Catch hold of the chair. Doesn't matter if you're behind the leg or in front of the leg with your arm. Pop the right leg back. It doesn't have to be as far back as I am. You could be a little in between. But what you want to maintain is this 90-degree angle here. I often see a lot of people collapsing it in forward. So it's like pigeon position, but this is like the full pigeon position, not the baby pigeon that we usually work on. So keep that 90 degrees at the knee, possibly kneeling version if it's available to you. Just be careful. It's not available to everybody for sure. And then come up forward and release that leg down. Shake it out a little bit. Let's move our chair out of the way. If you need a little sip of water, get a sip of water. Okay, we're going to start with our wide stance. Holding that when you're ready. Make sure I wasn't getting a message from our tech. Okay. Wide stance with the feet. Press the outside edges of the feet. A Wonder Woman stance. Confidence building posture. Now turning your left toes in, right toes out, arms up, tone the back leg, inhale, exhale, arms wide, warrior two. And the right forearm down, left arm extended side angle. Anchor from the back of the leg, coming up. Right toes in, left toes out, arms up, tone the back leg, feel arms wide, warrior two. Forearm down, right arm extends, extended side angle pose. Coming back to the leg, draw yourself up. Turn your left toes in. Interlace the fingers behind you. Roll the shoulders back. Lift the heart. Keeping the legs toned, lead with the heart as you hinge forward. Possibly rounding forward, possibly drawing your arms over top. Palms together to work harder. Inhale, tucking the tailbone. Coming up. Let's bring the heels in. Interlace, reverse, and turn the palms forward. And then knees wide, arms up. Goddess pose. If you like, a few pull breaths. Then pressing the legs up, hands just above the knees. Then rest the weight of your upper body into your legs. Maybe shifting a little side to side. Maybe one shoulder forward at a time. And then hands down, sitting low or shifting side to side in Skandasana. Back to the center, walk the hands forward, heels out, sit back, wide-legged downward dog. Walk the hands halfway in, come into flat back. Holding flat back, see how much you can hinge it towards the floor without rounding the spine. And hold. And pressing up, bringing the feet in a bit. If it helps, tuck the tailbone, rise up to standing. Bring the feet in the rest of the way. Okay, now you're gonna have the option if you want to try a sun salutation with a chair or just doing a regular sun salutation to get to the floor. But we'll start in chair pose. If you're using a chair, do chair pose right in front of your chair. I'm going to give the instructions for doing this with a chair, but if you're just doing this on the floor, a regular sun salutation, you know what you're doing, just do a regular sun salutation. Exhale, straighten the legs, fold over to the front. Inhale to flat back. Use the chair there. Exhale, fold, step, walk, or jump back into upper push-up position. Lower either halfway down or all the way down. Inhale, up dog or cobra. And then exhale, downward facing dog. Take the feet out a bit. Heels in, bend the knees so you can sit down into a squat. Coming into Malasana. Possibly coming into crow. If you work on crow, no pressure to do so. That is not a pose everybody wants to do. You don't have to do all of them. And then sitting down. Okay, catching hold behind your hamstrings, extend the arms up the chest. Then feet up. Hands forward. Maybe legs forward. And then coming down, Baddha Konasana, cobbler's seat. And then taking the left leg forward, right leg across. Right hand behind, sit up tall, gentle twist to the right. Keep the hips flat on the floor. Release, unwind, right leg forward now, left leg in, across, hand behind, sit up tall, gently twisting to the left. And then unwind. Now, if you have a chair, if you put it at the end of your mat, you can do a little bridge a little differently. So watch here first for a second. So option to do a little bridge. We're going to hold and put a block underneath. If you have a chair, then you can take your feet up onto the chair. It looks pretty extreme, but the comment I always get from people is that it's very relaxing and comfortable, surprisingly so for what it looks like. So if you can get into supported bridge like this, go for it. If you want, hold a little bit of bridge without a block. If you don't have a block, you can also use a bolster or a pillow or your own hands. You can also just hold it for a little while and then come down. Now, usually when I practice this, I'll also put a strap around my legs, which holds them together and allows you to relax more deeply in the pose with perfect alignment. I don't want to overwhelm you with props today. I know a lot of you don't have all of those props. Now from here, we're going to come into Viparita Karani. If you're already on a block, you can just transition right up into that. You can do this from the floor as well. And slowly releasing down from there. And if you want, one of my favorite things to use a chair for is for Shavasana. You can take your calves onto the chair. And I have a nice high stool for a high guy like me, so it's perfect. My calves are flat on the seat. If you have a shorter chair, you might have to move a bit away from the chair. What you don't want is just your heels on the seat, because then your legs aren't stable. You need to get stability so you can relax deeply and completely. Okay, so finding a comfortable reclined position. Let's take a minute in Shavasana. Okay, now please feel free to stay in Shavasana. Now, you probably noticed that my Shavasanas are pretty short at the end of yoga class, but it's just because you can, of course, stay as long as you want after. I personally practice Shavasana for at least 30 minutes a day, but not necessarily with my yoga practice. But as a rule of thumb, try to stay for about 25 breaths at least at the end of your yoga practice in either legs up the wall pose or some version of Shavasana. Anyway, thank you all for joining us today. We're looking to make a makeup class sometime, hopefully this month. So I hope you can make it to that. I'm not sure what we're doing in the future for classes, but I hope that you all stay connected. I have a book coming out soon that I think you'd all really like. I hope that you get that. Okay, and anyway, it's been a pleasure, and I hope to see you soon. Thank you all. Namaste.